area.
How's the house in Green Street?
Painters are in.
Oh, wow, great.
Yes. So,
We found
Buy any more
it.
houses this week? Buy any more houses this week? No. Okay.
You've got her.
Yeah.
And everything's better. That they should be able to know. Some people just don't. Part of the summer, they've not been able to do one.
You got it ready? Yeah, when did we go?
So we're having some. Yeah, so we have, we're having Thomas. And they said, so we're having gutters put on the. So we're having gutters and put on the garage.
Steve has this article on.
So, yeah, so we're not having any. But. This guy that came
So when is the next time?
Yeah.
Well, he went to a tennis. I like your. Long before that day. So she takes eight.
I know, maybe over, this is Lindsay Grader, she's our bond counsel, she's a lawyer that doesn't. This bond or any. Nice to see you again. And you know Kevin, I assume?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Then through a few lines.
Yep.
But chief, you would tell her on that topic.
Sure.
Can't believe that happened.
Almost seven.
We just need a council president. Get rid of one.
Where's it coming from?
Yeah.
It's bad.
We get it from.
It's bad.
It's.
Oh, I can't believe that.
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
It's like-
sorry.
Oh. Maybe put your cup.
This was good.
No.
Well, I want to bring in Ethan glass.
Man, you're not gonna find anything in it.
Good evening and welcome to this special meeting of Westminster Mayor and Common Council. Please note that our meetings, although open to the public here at City Hall, will continue to be available and streamed live on the city's YouTube page, as well as the Community Media Center channel and website. Now we'll begin as we do every meeting with the pledge to the flag, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Thank you. As a courtesy to everyone, please take a moment to silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices that you might have that could ring or beep during the meeting. Thank you. Copies of tonight's agenda and the entire information packet that we'll be using are available online on the city's website, and I believe hard copies are here in the room for those who are present. Begin with a statement for the record about our closed meeting of Monday, July 11th. In accordance with the general provisions article, section 3-306C2 of the annotated code of Maryland. And without objection, it is noted that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that the common council met in a closed meeting on Monday, July 11th, 2022 at 8:06 p.m. pursuant to general provisions article, section 3-305B1 to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, compensation, removal, resignation, performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials of this public body at jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affect one or more divisions. And this was approved unanimously. Following staff members were in attendance: the Administrator Imhoff and Interim Director of Finance Gardner. The council took official action during the meeting, and the closed meeting adjourned at 8:55 p.m. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the meeting of the Mayor and Common Council of July 11th, the Mayor and Common Council closed meeting of July 11th, excuse me, and the special meeting of July 18th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? There's been a motion by Mr. Bayhoff and a second by Ms. Gilbert. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. We have no presentation scheduled for this evening, but we do have a public hearing. Excuse me. Public hearings in the city of Westminster are led by the mayor, so I will turn the gavel over to Mayor Becker.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. I will now call this public hearing to order. Notice of this hearing was properly posted in accordance with the state law and city requirements. And I note that the time is 7:03 p.m. The hearing has been called for the purpose of inviting the public to comment on public hearing regarding the proposed issuance by the city pursuant to the Maryland Economic Development Revenue Bond Act, the Act of one or more series of revenue bonds in an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $60 million, and the loan of the proceeds of any such bonds to Carroll Lutheran Village Incorporated, CLV, for the purpose of financing, reimbursing, or refinancing costs of: one, the acquisition and improvement of CLV by various capital projects at its retirement community campus; two, the refunding in whole or in part of certain revenue bonds issued by the city in 2014 for the benefit of CLV, including with regard to any such refunding bonds initially issued on a taxable basis, the possible conversion to or exchange of such refunding bonds for tax-exempt refunding bonds, and or three, reserves, working capital, and other costs permitted by the Act. If you would like to be heard on the matter and previously signed up to speak, I don't think we have people signed up to speak, I will call your name in the order on the sign-in sheet. If you have not yet signed in, I will invite additional comments when we've gone through the list. We do not have a list of names. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard? Makes it easy. Seeing no speakers, I now declare this public hearing closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Becker. Move on now, excuse me, to the consent calendar. We have two items, I think. No, sorry, we have 5 items on the consent calendar. May I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
There's a motion by Mr. Bayhoff. Is there a second? The second by Mr. Kavati. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it. The consent calendar is approved. Report from the mayor, Dr. Becker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things I'd like to mention. On July 26th, I attended a Strokes Smart City, Stroke Smart County presentation that was hosted by Carroll Hospital Center President. And during the presentation, we learned about the different signs for strokes and most importantly, receiving medical care immediately upon the signs of the strokes within the first 20 minutes. And so your chances for recovery are much greater. Maryland was declared a stroke smart state by Governor Hogan earlier this year. And the organization for Stroke Smart City has asked that Westminster help get information out to its residents in the community about stroke awareness. On August 2nd, I, along with several other council members, attended National Night Out. I visited 7 events throughout the evening with Captain Schuster, enjoyed talking to the residents at each location. I'd like to compliment the chief and the department on making community engagement a goal within the city. A shout out to all the community groups and HOAs who organize the events within their own community, and they were so welcoming at each location. I know that we're often briefed on stats concerning opioid overdoses, and I think we all recognize the impact on the community. One of the items that I was able to pick up at National Night Out was Narcan. And the health department has Narcan available for anybody who would like to carry it for individuals. And they also did a short training on the administration of Narcan at the National Night Out events. In a few days, we're going to be welcoming almost 500 new McDaniel first-year students to Westminster. So on Saturday, you will see them in town. They'll walk from the college down to the library at about 10 a.m. And we'll be officially welcomed to the city in front of the library. And then they're given some time to explore. I know there are some new initiatives this year to engage students on that day. And I know I've already spoken to some of the council members who will be there to help out, to point students in various directions. Just a few other things. Summer is winding down. Fortunately, I know Abby's not here, but I just wanted to say thanks to the Recreation and Parks Department for literally knocking it out of the park with their daily events during the month of July. National Recreation and Park Month. I heard nothing but amazing reports. And also a very big thank you to the Public Works Department and specifically the Streets Department for their cleanup after the storms that have seemed to be a little constant over the last several weeks. I know I heard from many residents that the cleanup by the city was professional and timely after those storms passed through the area. Even from residents outside the city who bordered the city was there cleaning up in that area. And so they were very appreciative of that. And then the last thing, because I'm a big supporter of it, the farmers market is in full summer production right now. So don't miss that. And that is all I have.
All right, thank you, Dr. Becker.
You're welcome.
Move on now to reports from standing committees. We begin with our liaison to the Arts Council. Mr. Dale.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call to everyone's attention that beginning on September 9th, coming up, we will be having a Black American Film Festival. Should be really exciting. It's a great lineup. It'll go from September 9th to November the 18th. And full disclosure, I am one of the sponsors. This weekend, this Friday, I think it is, we will be having a film. You will have the Sidney Poitier movie. What is that? Lilies? Yeah. Lilies of the Field. This Friday, August the 19th. And I'm looking forward to that. That ought to be pretty neat. Other than that, we've got some great shows coming up. We have the member show coming up. The deadline is September 1st. Dr. Becker.
I already
September 1st.
submitted my entry.
Oh, my word. Okay. The deadline is September 1st for the 20th annual members show. The exhibit dates are September the 19th to October the 29th, and that show is always awesome. I think that's my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jehan. Move on to the Economic and Community Development Committee. Mr. Hoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next meeting is Thursday, August 25th at 3:30 p.m. We did not have a meeting in July, but I think now that the summer's over, we'll probably be getting back to our regular monthly meetings. So we will see you then. Thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing from the Finance Committee except to report that I believe our new Finance Director starts tomorrow. Very excited about that and looking forward to having her on board. So congratulations, Ms. Imhoff, for doing a good job recruiting somebody and looking forward to having somebody there to work with you.
Thank you.
Personnel Committee, Ms. Gilbert.
I just want to make people aware that there are numerous positions we have available from comprehensive planner 1 and 2, economic development coordinator, property inspector, director of IT, executive assistant, entry level and lateral police officer positions, along with a communications specialist. We have third shift plant operator 1 and 2. We have a water maintenance mechanic second shift, And if that's not enough for you, we have a position or two in our streets department. So please look at our website, check out our job descriptions and fill out an application to join our team.
Thank you. Good. Public safety, Mr. Kavachi.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Westminster Police Department has finally completed the implementation of the IA Pro software system that I believe is the final step that puts us in full compliance with the numerous onerous and often unfunded mandates that the state put upon us related to law enforcement. So that's great news. I'd like to congratulate Brandon O'Neill. He was named Westminster Police Officer of the Quarter for the second quarter of 2022. Sarah Billington was named the Civilian Employee of the Quarter for the same quarter. So I'd like to congratulate both of them on a job well done. On August 2nd, the Westminster Police Department sponsored the National Night Out events. There were 5 locations, and as the mayor's already talked about, many of us went to all of them. With only 5 this year, we were able to hit them all. It's tough when it's 8 or 9 of them.
Which one?
We got it counted. Okay.
How many were there, Chief?
5 actually.
Does that include the pop-up?
No, that doesn't include the one on Liberty Street.
There was an official one.
Yeah, that's the one I went to. Yeah,
So that's why.
yeah, I'm like, I was confused. Okay, all right.
So the event was great. So,
Sorry, Mr. Coffey.
okay.
All right.
On August 8th, the Westminster Police Department partnered with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, the Health Department, and Shepherd staff to hold Shop with the Cop, which about 200 children attended, and it gives the children supplies for the upcoming school year. They get ice cream and haircuts and other treats. And I do have to say, Chief, you look really good on the front page of the Carroll County Times this year. So great work. You know, it's a kind of community building stuff is really important. On August 11th, the police department assisted the Carroll County Drug Task and Firearms Trafficking Task Force on an arrest of an individual from Baltimore. They seized 33 grams of crack, 1.6 grams of heroin, 1.4 grams of fentanyl, a loaded handgun, and $4,000 in cash. As is typical, the individual was prohibited from possessing a firearm, but had one anyway. He fled from the scene. They were able to run him down and capture him through some good police work, and got all the contraband listed above off the street. So that's great work, Chief, and good cooperation between the departments. And then lastly, on August 12th, the police department partnered with the Boys and Girls Club for an end of summer park event, a summer event at City Park. I actually cooked about 250 hot dogs for that event. It was fun. And ate a couple. So, and there was a lot of fun. The kids had a good time. You know, as a quick side note, Chief in particular, as you know, my daughter is a program director, coordinator there, and she said that she was talking to one young man, and he was talking about how he doesn't like the police, and you know, had some kind of negative things to say about it, but she feels like it's these types of things that will change that attitude, and the more you do those things, I think, you know, changing those attitudes of some of these young individuals is really positive and super important. So really glad to see you guys out there. I think it's really critical, and I just want to give you kudos and thanks for that. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kavachi, and I'd like to see the public works report as well.
Sure. I'm going to get that up in front of me. This is shorter, I promise. And it's a smaller font, so I need to put it on the side.
You can change it.
I know, but I don't have time right now. That's the one. I did it for the first one and forgot to do it for this one. The crosswalks upgraded at Center Street. We all saw a picture of that. It's a kind of a faux brickwork was put down and looks nice. So good work there. That is a funky intersection. So I think it really calls out the fact that there are crosswalks there. So that's good work. They responded to 27 calls for service from the storms, as the mayor alluded to on July 12th, and collected 50 tons of brush from those storms. They rebuilt 2 stormwater catch basins at Medina Court and Burning Tree Court. So some heavy duty work there. Assisted the Recreation Park Department in preparing execution and cleanup of the Kids Ninja Warrior event. Sorry to miss that. And the County Board of Commissioners approved $1.5 million, or almost $1.5 million in grant funding in support of our Pure Water project, which is fantastic news. And, you know, I'd like to compliment staff because it was, you know, their presentation when we had that joint meeting with the commissioners, I think is really what put it over the top. It was a well done presentation, well prepared. I received comments from 2 of the commissioners, how they were impressed, you know, with how we were prepared for it and, you know, how we presented it to them. And needless to say, the $1.5 million is going to be tremendously helpful for that project. So congratulations, Ms. Imhoff and the rest of the staff on a job well done. That's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kavaki. Recreation and Public Works. Excuse me, Recreation and Parks.
We're looking forward to the 43rd annual Fall Fest event coming up September the 22nd through the 25th. Got a lot of really good feedback on the camps that Recreation and Parks. As a matter of fact, I think they took over the meeting room at 45 one day. Mr. President, maybe we could look forward to a progress report on the poll at a council meeting coming up sometime soon. If you could do that for us, that would be great. And maybe while we're at it, maybe a progress report on Wakefield Valley. That's okay with you, please.
Mr. Gruber's not here this evening, but we will ask the city administrator to plan for that sometime soon.
That'd be
I
great.
can give that tonight.
Or.
That'll be-
I'll do that later tonight.
Oh, good. Okay. Good. That's my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayhaw. And I have nothing for the technology committee, except that we're going to try to get a meeting together before the end of the month. And hopefully we'll be able to pull that off. We've got a few things to discuss. And I also want to just apologize for my raspy voice tonight. I just in battle with the latest version of COVID.
Not just, it was like.
It was a few weeks ago.
Okay, thank
That's a positive last night. It's actually negative for a lady.
Right.
It's still a little.
Leave the building.
My wife thought the elected body was pretty good.
Some people that would appreciate that.
We're not
probably in this room.
We're not going to gratify them. Council comments and discussion. This is the time when members of the council get to share anything that's not elsewhere on the agenda that they have on their minds. Begin with Mr. Kavachi.
I have nothing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kavachi. Mr. Mayhaw.
I recently attended the Billy Live talent show event at the Carroll Arts Center, and that was good stuff. It was well attended, and I really appreciate the work that Billy Live is doing in our community. And I guess I should fully disclose that I was one of the sponsors. Mr. Kavachi, you failed to mention that Brandon O'Neill is a Marine. So I want that to make sure that we mentioned
If he
that.
was Army, I would have said something. He's a Marine.
Yes, he's a Marine. And I recently attended Dr. Harris's Grow event, and that was a great event. Brought a lot of people in from the community, and we really enjoyed it. Thank you for putting that on. I believe that's my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're going to recruit a Boy Scout to keep order. Ms. Gilbert. Would you like to share?
I have a couple things. I wanted to congratulate those that won the primary election and encourage all the voters to go out on our upcoming election again in November. Please research your candidates and let's go out to vote. I also wanted to say the Parks and Rec Department did knock it out of the park, actually intended, again for the month of July with all the activities that were held. They did an absolutely amazing job. National Night Out was a huge success. I know it was mentioned by everyone already, but going to all 6 locations, it was great to get out and talk to all the folks out there and what was on their mind and things that they felt were important. I also would like a update on our summer work sessions that have been promised, actually since May 20th. I know I received a text today, but it's been a long time. And I've been hearing about the promised work session and retreat, and here we are almost at the end of summer and nothing is scheduled yet. Second, I want to go on record and express my concern and dissatisfaction with the council not having a meeting since August 11th. Given technology and 2 years worth of Zoom meetings, you would think that we could squeeze in a council meeting somewhere in there. But what was more kind of disappointing was that many of us didn't know we were canceling meetings until the announcement was called that evening. Seems to be a lack of communication amongst many of us in general regarding the subject, and just being told that we're going to cancel a meeting without any conversation. I just want to remind folks that this is a council of 5 members, and we are all equally talented folks who have something to contribute and thoughts. I think it was a huge disservice to those that elected us that we did not have any meetings since July. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hoff.
National Night Out, I just wanted to comment about that. That's always a great event. Really enjoyed myself. Unfortunately, you know, you enjoy it so much, but you're only able to get to so many. I wasn't able to get to the last one. I know I also received a message about the work session retreats, and I look forward to that because I do think they're a good idea for us all to get together and be able to sit down and kind of work through different things in a more informal manner. And I'm sure hopefully we'll be making progress on that soon. That's really it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoff. I'll move on now to ordinances and resolution. We have one ordinance before us this evening, adoption of resolution 22-02, authorizing the city to issue revenue bonds in one or more series in the original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $60 million, and to loan the proceeds thereof to Carroll Lutheran Village Incorporated for the purpose of refinancing, reimbursing, or refinancing costs for undertaking certain capital projects, refunding in whole or in part certain outstanding revenue bonds, funding reserves, and or paying other costs and expenses permitted by the Maryland Economic Development Revenue Bonds Act. Ms. Imhoff, would like to set this up for us?
Thank you, sir. We have been working with Lindsay Rader as our bond counsel with Funk and Bolton. Ms. Rader is in the audience today, and she is prepared to give you a brief overview. Ms. Rader?
Thank you. Nice to see you all again. So in 2014, the city issued what are known as conduit revenue bonds pursuant to the Maryland Economic Development Revenue Bond Act, and loaned the proceeds to Carroll Lutheran Village, which I'll refer to as CLV. CLV used those bonds to finance some new capital projects and to refinance some outstanding bonds that the city had previously issued for the benefit of CLV. In the municipal bond world, when we talk about refinancing, we actually refer to refunding outstanding bonds. CLV is now undertaking some new capital projects, mainly relating to Building 205 on its campus, its retirement community campus, and some other related and additional improvements on the campus. And just as an aside, Steve Powell, who is the VP of Finance and Technology for CLV, is in the audience tonight. He can answer any specifics about what CLV is looking to do. They are also looking to refund in whole or in part the 2014 bonds. So they have asked the city to issue one or more series of its conduit revenue bonds in an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $60 million, and to loan the proceeds to CLV for those purposes. There's a slight nuance that we haven't experienced before with conduit revenue bonds issued by the city, and that is that the 2014 bonds are not subject to prepayment or redemption at the option of CLV until July 1, 2024. They were issued, so there was a 10-year no-call period. But in the municipal bond world, you can issue refunding bonds, escrow the proceeds, have them invested in US Treasury securities typically. And there will be a verification consultant who will verify that as the investments mature, they will throw off sufficient funds to pay principal and interest on the bonds until they mature up to that date and to pay off the remaining bonds on that date. Congress, a couple of years ago, did away with the ability to issue what are known as advance refunding bonds on a tax exempt basis. And because we're looking to issue the bonds now, almost 2 years before the 2014 bonds can be paid off, they would have to be issued as a taxable basis. Very smart investment bankers and others who work in the municipal bond world have come up with a new structure, often referred to as Cinderella bonds, where you would issue bonds that are taxable now for federal income tax purposes. And in the period just prior to that July 1, 2024 date, they would be converted to and/or exchanged for tax exempt bonds. And because both the new money bonds are anticipated to be issued on a tax exempt basis, and the refunding bonds will have a conversion feature, that was the purpose of the public hearing held earlier tonight, which is known as a TEFRA hearing, and that was mandated by the federal tax code. Another slight nuance for those of you who have been on the council before, when conduit revenue bonds were approved by the city, is you might recall that typically a resolution will provide that any of the new bonds or the bonds under consideration must be issued within 1 year. Because of this Cinderella feature and some technical federal tax code provisions, this resolution provides that any of these bonds must be issued by December 31, 2025, or such earlier date as required by the federal tax code, and that's to accommodate the conversion feature. Another nuance, which I pointed out in my memo to the Mayor and Common Council, is that because it is anticipated that the refunding bonds will convert in 2024, and because they will be, even at that point, they are likely to be outstanding in an aggregate principal amount more than $10 million, the city won't be able to issue any bonds on a bank qualified basis in calendar year 2024 if that conversion happens. If the conversion doesn't happen, you can. Now, there's always the chance, because there are always proposals before council or Congress to increase the bank qualification limitation. And if that happened, that would work in your favor. I've been your bond counsel since 2010, and in that time, you have never issued tax exempt bonds that you would have really gotten the benefit of designating them as bank qualified, because that really only works for you if you're issuing the bonds directly to a bank. And in the last 12 years, any tax exempt bonds you've issued have typically been placed either with the Community Development Administration through its local government infrastructure financing program, or with the Maryland Water Quality Financing Administration. And they don't want you to designate your bonds as bank qualified. So that is just the one nuance I wanted to make you aware of, because it's limiting you possibly 2 years out, but you are not an active issuer of debt for your own purposes, and who knows what could happen in 2 years. As is common under the Act, the resolution delegates to the mayor the authority to determine final details of any financing by executive order or otherwise, and that's what we have done in the past with conduit revenue bond issues. There's a lot of legalese in the resolution, but it makes very clear in multiple places that these bonds are not backed by the faith and credit of the city or your taxing power. You have no obligation to pay these bonds. In fact, if you approve the bonds, the bonding approval does not constitute any other sort of zoning, land use, site development approvals relating to the project. COV will still have to come back to you to any of those for approvals in accordance with applicable law. And again, the limited obligation, if CLV defaults, you are not obligated to come up with any money to pay off these bonds. The Exhibit A to the resolution is a letter of intent that was signed by CLV that is mandated by the Economic Development Revenue Bond Act, and the resolution authorizes the mayor to accept that letter of intent on behalf of the city. By approving the resolution, you give the TEFRA approval for any tax exempt bonds as required by the federal tax code. You reserve the right not to issue any of the bonds, to issue only a portion of the bonds authorized. We thank you very much for agreeing to this special meeting tonight because the working group is trying to get this transaction closed by the end of this month, and they very greatly appreciate your holding this special meeting in order to hopefully accommodate that. The resolution allows for post modifications to any existing bond documents once issued in accordance with the provisions of the resolution. Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston will serve as bond counsel for the issuer. For the issue, I'm serving as your issuer's counsel. So my role is really to make sure all of the documents make very clear the limited obligation that the city has, that you're properly indemnified, that any of your expenses are paid. And in fact, both the letter of intent and the resolution provide that CLD is responsible for all costs, including of your city attorney, us as issuers counsel, bond counsel, whether or not the bonds are ever issued. So that I think is a pretty good overview. I am happy to answer any questions. And I know Mr. Powell is also here and happy to address any specifics.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rader. It's always great to have you with us. It's been quite a while, so it's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Before we go any further, let's go ahead and get this properly before us. I have a motion to adopt resolution 22-02.
So moved.
And a motion by Mr. Dayoff and a second by Ms. Gill.
Mr. President,
Mr. Kamachi.
I would like to respectfully recuse myself from this vote. I actually conduct business with LSM&D, which is the parent company of CLB, so it would be inappropriate for me to vote on this particular issue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kamachi. Would anyone else wish to be heard on this? Anybody have any questions for Ms. Rader or for Mr. Powell?
Mr. President.
Mr. Hawk?
So will all the bonds, because this is something a little unusual that you don't deal with all the time, I haven't been here before. So will all these bonds be issued prior to the end of the year? Is that how that works, or is it?
What is anticipated, CLD actually has a proposal from a bank to place two separate series of bonds. There will be a tax exempt new money series and a taxable refunding series, and they will both be placed with the bank. So we are anticipating that all of the bonds will actually be issued by the end of this month if you approve the resolution. It's just that if certain conditions precedent that will be set forth in the bond documents are met in 2024, then the refunding bonds will convert to tax exempt bonds.
So the
Won't be-
refunding bonds are like the refinance, what I would typically think of it, the refinance. The ones that are being issued as tax exempt is what I would consider new money in my world.
Exactly, new money or project bonds, that's exactly right,
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dayoff?
did you mention which bank is recycled?
I did not,
You would rather not.
I don't think there's any reason not to.
I'm looking for conflicts.
Sandy Spring Bank
Okay, we're good. And the only other firm besides Funk and Bolton will be Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston.
is, Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston is serving as bond counsel for the issue. So they are serving both as bond counsel, and as borrower's counsel to
Okay.
CLB.
That was where I was.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm good, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. What else? Good. Very good, thank you. All right. Well, thank you for the detailed lesson on, the current state of bond financing. Always
Thank you.
interesting.
So, Mr. President,
Mr. Hawk?
yeah, I'm sorry. Let me just add one other thing, 'cause I think this is kind of unusual. It's unusual to me.
No, it's
because
not.
Well, unusual in the sense of
Yeah,
from a lay
okay.
standpoint.
It's not unusual, because we've done this many times, in the city of Westminster, so it's not unusual. I mean, it's something we don't do often, but it's not unusual in the sense that it's a pretty common practice done for lots of institutions here in Westminster, one for Western, Neighborhood College.
Yeah.
And probably back we did it when it was still Western.
Yes.
And so we've done it, and sometimes we do it when the county would normally do it. And then the county has sometimes used up their capacity in a particular year, and they've had to say, you need to go talk to the city and have them do it. But it's something that we've done for lots of institutions. I don't need to correct this one.
No,
Make sure
I
people understand it. It's not really an unusual.
meant from a layman's standpoint, if you have not been in the government world to understand some of the history and background. But one of my points is that the important role that Carroll Lutheran Village plays in the Westminster community. And this is part of the reason why I think as council, we are very willing to do this as a council, because Carroll Lutheran Village is a big part of our community. They hire a lot of people that live in the local area. They have a lot of community members that live there. So I guess my point was, for someone who is kind of wondering about this, it's something that was new to me, but is not new if you're used to this world, which I was only elected a year and a half ago. But it makes a lot of sense to me because it's a way to help some of our big institutions or businesses that are in the Westminster area be able to simply put, obtain a better interest rate, because a tax exempt bond is going to require a lower interest rate than if it was a taxable bond. So my point, just being the point I wanted to make, is the important role that Carroll Lutheran Village plays in the community and how that all ties in. So it's not, my point is, this is not just something that we would, do for any particular institution or business. It depends upon their role that they play in the Westminster community, why we as a governmental entity are willing to be the conduit for this. That was the point I wanted to make, and I failed to make it earlier.
Thank you, Ms. Hawk. Any other questions? Any other comments from the council? All right, hearing none, move on to a vote. All those in favor of adopting resolution number 22-02, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Carol, for the vote. Appreciate the good work building community. Okay. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm going to stick around for some signatures
Sounds good.
afterward.
Next item is unfinished business. There is no unfinished business of which I'm aware. Anybody have any unfinished business to bring before the council? Hearing none, move on to new business. No new business of which I'm aware. Does anybody have any new business to bring before the council? Hearing none, we'll move on. It's a special meeting. So normally I would dispense from my report, but I think there's a couple of things that Ms. Imhoff did update us on, including what was asked of her before.
Yes, thank you, sir. Just to give a quick update on the pool project, we've now received our permit. So that took a little bit longer. The permitting took a little bit longer than anticipated, as it sometimes does.
This is my shock face.
So we will be moving full steam ahead with construction in the immediate future. The item that I wanted to focus mainly on is to piggyback on what the mayor mentioned, which is Westminster Welcome. The city is using some of its economic development funds to offer a $10 voucher for the students to use downtown and any of the businesses on Main Street for a month. So they will be given a voucher in their bags, which are going to be offered by the library. McDaniel has teamed up with some of the businesses to offer grants so that they're able to give some goodies away, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be a pretty great day. On the 20th, Runmore is also celebrating their 8th year on Main Street, and there will be a big celebration at Runmore as well. So I was able to on Saturday walk Main Street and speak to some of the businesses to make sure they were aware of the voucher program, and they'll be able to come back then with the vouchers and get reimbursed from the city for those students who want to do that. So the timing of that, it starts on the 20th, which is when the walk is, but that's a very quick time. We'll have some staff and council members along the way, as well as some of the businesses to kind of highlight what's there. These are freshmen, of course, as you all know. But then they'll have a month to spend their $10 voucher so they can come back at a later time. And the month ends with Fall Fest. So we're trying to encourage them to come down to Fall Fest, bring their $10 gift card with them. So hopefully that'll be something we can build on in future years as a way to connect the college and the freshmen to the businesses downtown on Main Street. So again, any of the businesses on Main Street will be able to use that voucher if they want to. We're also encouraging the kids to connect to the farmers market, which will be going on at the exact same time. So lots of exciting stuff on Main Street on Saturday, 20th. And we will defer the rest of the department reports until next Monday's meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Speaking of anniversaries, I understand that Rudolph Girls Books just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. It's great to have a bookstore downtown again, so we're excited about that as well. All right, thank you. Now is the time on our agenda where we invite every citizen to share comments with us. I'll note that, excuse me, for those who cannot be in attendance, we still welcome citizen comments electronically. Have them sent to comments at Westminster. What's the email address? MD.gov. Thank you. And please, and if anybody wants to comment, please send us their name and address and phone number so we can verify who they are. I appreciate that. If anybody is here this evening who would like to make a comment, we welcome that as well. Please give us your name and address for the club. Anybody like to be heard tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Dartrell Harris, 66 Pennsylvania Avenue, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. I come here to thank the administration and police department because, I do this little growth group that I had. We started off a little rocky, but I had the support, of the administration. But the administration and the police department and it's everything is starting to pan out the way it should. But I just wanted to say thank you. I just want you to know that we never went through anything like we've been through, because we have been doing it for 15 years. But we needed to be shaken up so that we could get better. So, and I just want to say thank you for the support. The police department's really been good. Administration has really been good. And could you tell people in the recreations department has really been good to us because they had to deal with me going back and forth with all these emails, and they still treated me with a great deal of kindness and respect. I would have told you earlier, but every time I came here, nobody was here. So that was council. I came but like 3 times to tell y'all thank you. And so thank you. The other thing I'm coming about is on Pennsylvania Avenue, they had asphalt patches on the street. And they have kind of worn out. And the reason why I'm concerned about it is because we have to park on each side of the street and then too. So we don't walk all the way up to the crosswalk to walk over. We'll just walk over from our cars. Now, if you walk over the whole, it's like a pothole there. It's a couple of them. And you could actually get your foot caught in there and trip, get hit by a car or something. So if y'all could look at that, I'd appreciate it. And the last thing I want to say is, no, that's it. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Always nice to see you.
Yeah, same.
We'll take a look at that.
I know we don't engage when they speak, but I'm gonna break the rule and say thank you for everything you do for the community. It's a very important role, and I know you came here to thank us, but we would like to thank you as well. You play a major role for some of those folks, those young individuals, and things you do are really important.
Thank you.
I think you do let me have that.
Thank you.
I was going to say myself. And thank you, Doctor. It's great to see you. All right, anyone else? Okay, if there's no one else, then our council will have its next regular meeting next Monday evening. And until that time, we are adjourned. Thank you.
I don't think I've ever been here without